both. Okay, cool. So the context was that we are here to share more confusion, ask more questions, and kind of at least have a conversation, because both me and Himanshu don't know what will work, but we definitely know what will not work, right? And what will not work is something that we have been doing traditionally. I have been doing for last 16 years. Himanshu has been doing it for equal number of years. And hence, let this conversation today be about openness to multiple perspectives, and truly see if there is something that can emerge that we all could kind of apply, learn, and test, and kind of make the system better, right? So it's almost progress, not perfection, is our mind space when we kind of spend a lot of time. Me and Himanshu know each other for almost 6-7 years, and we have had countless breakfast sessions, tea, coffee sessions, debating performance. We both love this word and what it means to companies and founders, right? So that's the context. Himanshu, over to you if you want to share any pretext before we start.
Yeah. So consider this conversation more like we are having a coffee chat over performance, and there are views which are counter, and which is where I think I was hearing somebody is expecting simplicity. There are simple questions, but the topic is complex. So we will try to make it more confusing than less confusing, and see what comes out of it. If there's enough churning that is happening, I think all of us will move out learning something after this 1.5 hours that we have prepared together. So we jump into it, Karthik.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So we introduce ourselves. I think Santosh Babu has rightly said people who know us may not have come, so that's a good thing because we get to speak to more people then. So I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Himanshu. I'll speak about what exactly how I am looking at life. What's my declaration? I relate to myself as a free being who is on mission to have a joyful creation of world of leaders. And one of the core thing that I keep doing is when people are around me, I see that they're acknowledged, connected, and thriving. And standing as force of life, I want to fulfill unimaginable and lead people through presence and vitality. Uh, 3 or 4 years back, sometime with some of the coaches, worked deeply, got what is it life all about, and created this for myself, including the motto of a life. So I have been always shaped up with places that I've been to, and one of the place that I've been to, I've carried the motto of that institute, and I've made it my motto, which is Gyanam Parmam Dhyayam. And this is very core to how I see what I value. I value curiosity, authenticity, and joy in everything that I'm doing. So typically, this is about me, and you will experience a lot of this during the conversation that we are going to happen. Karthik?
Yes, I'm a little less evolved. So I'll talk about, I think, three books that have kind of opened my perspective. Hard Things About Hard Things. I think it's one of the most practical books that has been written by a founder about how to build a company. And I always love hearing founders talking about culture, because they have a very unique take, which we being in the profession are not able to do. Scaling People, I think this is the most, again, practical HR book that has been designed around hiring, performance, training and development, and talent development. This is by Claire, who kind of built some of the largest companies in Silicon Valley. And Trillion Dollar Coach, this is Bill Campbell, who in a way coached the $3 trillion CEOs, right? And he was all about just being super authentic, raw and candid. My most inspiring thing about Bill Campbell was when he died. He used to go out on drinks with his friends. So when he died at the age of 60, all the CEOs, Steve Jobs, to everybody came at his funeral and talked about how he changed his life. He used to go with his friends to a cafe to have beer, and when they went after his death to have a beer, they ordered beers, and by the time they were checking out, they asked for the bill, and the bar said that Bill Campbell had paid for next 2 years all the bills for their future liquor, right? And that's the kind of guy he was, that even before dying and he knew he was unwell, he had paid for next 2 years. So I think that's the level of authenticity and candidness if you can bring at a workplace. And his favorite question was, are you coachable, right? And that's something which has kind of defined my kind of journey, which comes from curiosity. My perspective changed with this one line, मंजिल तो मिल ही जाएगी मुझे, भटक कर सही, गुमराह तो वो लोग हैं जो घर से निकले ही नहीं. So I always believe, please ask questions to everything, everyone around you, including yourself. And that's why I said, even this session, I think we have more questions and answers, and I think that's where the beauty of the session will be. So that's a bit about me. So what we have
Sure.
done is, we have run down what the current appraisal process looks like, right? And I have a request: if people can be on video call, it'll be good to kind of see you, and it'll be good to see. I can just see Shijin, a few folks, right? It'll be good to have. And someone needs to be on mute. Okay, cool. So we'll run down the current appraisal and the performance process, and then we'll go to the desired and what we have come to, right? So here is a quick rundown that Himanshu will do, right? This is goal setting essentially, right? I think everywhere that I've gone, I think this is one line summary. Then from goal setting, this moves to the next stage, which is quarterly check-in, right, or monthly check-in, where people are kind of very very targeted कि यार काम हुआ नहीं हुआ. Then you move to PIP, right, which is essentially, it's not me, it's you, it's not you, it's me, right? Then it goes to some few top performers, right, who feel कि यार Amazon voucher मिल गया 1,000 रुपए का, so company has some kind of a recognition program. Then it moves to somewhere self appraisal, where people kind of constantly have this view on what they think of themselves, versus then it goes to manager appraisal, which moves to person saying कि यार यार तुम क्या बात कर रहे हो, तुम, how can you say you are so good. Two, it moves to increment. Hopefully, I'll get some good increment, right? And before that, yes, calibration committee, where Amazon has kind of given everybody a perspective कि यार there is some higher power sitting where you can actually go and counter, so we'll talk a lot about that. And then finally, the last two painful steps of before increment, and which goes to after increment, right? And then eventually people want to just get out of the complete performance appraisal process. So in all the people that I've spoken to somewhere had more pain than pleasure associated with this whole performance process. And our goal was to kind of make it extremely experiential, right? So that's all we had to kind of cover. So Imanshu can kind of close. So
Yeah.
that's our kind of yeah.
So I'm sure most of you would have experienced one of this emotion in one of the steps wherever you are. Have you been part of the committee, or you have been part of the being a manager who has to fit somebody into a curve that is retrofitted, and then have to see what happens. This last one is the most exciting phase, when the next day when increment happen and everybody reaches office and resumes office, and it's a scene to see what happens. So once we have seen this, and now when we were looking at the whole thing, I can see a lot of you laughing. So you can share your experiences, whatever is coming to your mind, that will make this more engaging. Okay.
I'm little afraid because I'm from HR. So yeah, I mean, whatever you have shown that I could relate easily. Uh, more of it from the other side than myself, I should say, experience this. But actually, what you say, it's not just feeling. Whatever you have shown here is interestingly, there are things from HR perspective. We would like to say that it's not me. Don't come to me with all these things. So
Yeah.
if you see, uh, so far we have been so employee friendly and all. What suddenly when something happens like this, suddenly we try to distance ourselves from the entire process. Though we fully accept the process, the conversation of buying in across the parties, management, HR, and the employee normally does not fully happen. That flow does not
Got
happen,
it.
which actually the So I'm just this is my
Yes, so
experience.
that's where we are joining in, and in all our heads, we see that the process is very, very aligned, but it may not look like.
No, I think, and just Satya, one more point, right? Why I think fundamentally currently HR processes don't have a lot of respect is because I think they're very devoid from actually how the work happens in the real life, right? We typically set our goals in a particular manner, but actually what day to day happens somehow is experienced extremely differently, right? So most people actually have bought into concepts that have been shared over the years, and now we are literally mindlessly following them even though when we know they're suboptimal. So actually this session will talk about actually what happens on ground versus how typically HR designs these processes, right? So while it's a very sarcastic take, I think because all of us are from HR, I think we should be able to very in a healthy way be critical about ourselves of what we have been championing even though we somehow don't deeply believe in it, right? So that's in a way, like in a humorous way, we wanted to talk about. Cool.
Good. So, to all of us, I think what it looks like, the structure or the architecture of PMS is more structural, and in our head, the process looks like this, but in reality, it could be different. That's what Karthik is saying about Karthik.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think universally across cultures, I think there is an architecture that works. But today, what we want to talk about is the nuance of the architecture, essentially, the design of the architecture. It's almost like saying all homes have drawing rooms and bedrooms and dining rooms, but every home is different, right? And every home has a design, and there is a very intentional way something has been designed. So, what we would encourage is when you talk about today, please talk about your experience. How does it happen in your company, your context? Because that's where probably better things will emerge. What we have shared here is the nuance of the architecture, which we'll cover, and we'll break it up into very smaller parts and go really deep into each of these.
good. So, what looks like a very aligned process generally is a very disjointed process when it actually comes into implementation. So, we'll go deep into each of the pieces and then explore. So, Karthik, we can begin with goal setting. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, right now, whenever I look at any company's goal setting process, uh, most large companies have something called AOP, which is annual operating plan. And a lot of smaller companies that want to grow also build their annual plan at the end of the year. This is where I want to be. And these are some of the things that I will do or our organization will do to make sure we achieve it. We are questioning the first fundamental itself, that with where the world is today, with geopolitical scenario, with AI, with amount of disruption that's happening across, right? Some of us may not be experiencing it, some of us may be experiencing it, but we are questioning the first premise, that does what does the goal setting process, the tenure of it looks like in your company. And would love to hear how many of you, by raise of hands, can tell us how many of you are on an annual process. How many of you have annual process, guys? And let's please make it conversational, because otherwise this will end up becoming a monologue, which is absolutely not the goal of the session. Okay, Kruti said we have an annual process. Okay, others? Okay, we too. Okay, fantastic. It looks like almost everybody has an annual process and they have a mid-year and they have a check-ins. Yeah, we'll go to check-ins, guys. We'll really break this up, right? But what I'm realizing is that everybody's saying we have an annual process. And right now, what we are debating is annual even a sensible thing to do, considering the amount of changes that happen in a year? right? Himanshu, do you want to chime in and maybe we go to the next question, which leads into this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the follow-up question is, if you have an annual process, which percentage of your goal remain relevant or intact? And please do not answer it from a point of view that it's sitting on your goal sheet. Purely talking about actual जो लोग काम करते हैं और quarter on quarter जहां उनका time जा रहा है, and the meaning itself of that goal, does it remain relevant for the complete year?
It can be yes and no. Simple. Oh, good.
60% relevant, 50% remains. Interesting. Guys, you can unmute and speak as well. Would love to kind of know the 25% changes as per business dynamics. Okay, interesting.
Super.
60 to 70% relevant. Okay. Depends on how well the goals have been set. Okay. In pharma, 80% relevant. Yeah. Okay. This is classical large companies. Okay.
Yeah.
60% relevant. Himanshu, you want to talk about this, especially
Yeah.
linking to Basecamp? Yeah.
Yeah. So most of us have seen that in generally the goals does not remain relevant, and then that becomes the baseline from where we are doing the appraisal. So that's where the first question or first inquiry that needs to come in, that what's the size of the organization, what's the business, what's the nature of the organization. And that's where some of the organizations have started challenging the annual cycle itself. Like one of the example is Basecamp, where organization is only looking at 6 weeks. It's a completely work from home organization, a digital organization. The product is digital. They have started looking at a 6 week cycle on off for a goal setting purposes, so that you know clearly where what is going to happen in next 6 weeks. Similarly, in our own, like in my experience in my organization, we have played multiple times. We did a 4 month cycle, then a year cycle. We failed. We came back to a 6 month cycle. So depending on the context, the operations, and the scale at which we are operating, that first insight has to be brought in when the goal setting cycle is happening. That should we actually require an annual cycle? Because if that remains irrelevant, then the whole PMS loses its own sanctity from a beginning. The start point itself is not right. Good. As we were talking now, from a goal setting perspective, also, there is a lot of impact on how my organizations are designed, and how does, as the situations are changing, business scenarios are changing, what's an impact of it, how agile we are. Like most of you said that, okay, 60%, 40%, 30%. Let's say now we know that something has changed, a goal has to change. How does that gets reflected into actual day-to-day working? So that's one of the next premise that we want to talk about. You want to bring it up, Karthik?
Yeah. So, guys, I'll talk about something that I think is in a way very understated and not discussed enough. Is the design of the company? Is it really equipped to manage the goal, right? And I've been very curious about this, and I've been talking to a lot of people in my circle, where I've been saying, yeah, how do you really do it? And one of the most interesting case studies came when I spoke to Ashish, who's the CHR of Misho, where they have about 3,000 odd people, and they have broken the whole company into 6 to 7 people groups, the whole organization. And this is not just product and tech. So for them, they keep a 6 month goal for those 6, 7 people, and they say that in Tamil Nadu, in shoes category, the sale has to go from X to Y. And that very hard, sharp, defined problem statement has some 6 to 7 people who are obsessing over it, because that's the single most important metric that will move the company in the right direction. Now, most of the goals that I have seen typically are very, very broad and very, very generic. So, for a talent acquisition, the goal will be TAT, offer to joiner ratio, cost per hire, source mix. This is very, 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 very generic. Now, that's because that's super easy. But how they have defined a goal for, say, a TA team is increase talent density of data science team in next 3 months. Now, for that, they have to define talent density. What does it mean? And some people have to obsessively work on increasing the talent density. That itself is like the single most important goal. So one of the things we are doing is, for example, we had a call center, and in that, if we were hiring, say, agents, we said, yeah, we will increase agent productivity from day 0 to day 60 by 25%. And for that, we maybe need to start from hiring, where we said, okay, we actually looked at data of thousands of people that would be hired, and we looked at what gender were they, what age were they, what background they were, what companies were they, what was their native language, because they were in a certain city. And we said, yeah, that data over time is showing me that in male hirings, people who are graduates and are between 23 to 27 are likely to do better if their native language is Kannada. Or if you're hiring a women employee, it might be better that you're hiring someone, because it's a call center, fixed hours, a woman age between 25 to 28 might work better. So eventually, what we are suggesting is, even when you look at goal setting, can we, because it's so hard to be so specific about truly what will make the company move in the right direction, we have resorted to a very broad generic arc of what performance and goals should look like. So I would encourage, if you could look at one org design. So if you are hiring in talent acquisition, all recruiters are hiring, all are managing. And again, I'm also questioning a non-tech roles 30 days, senior roles in 60 days. Who has designed this 30 and 60? It's just say be, whenever I asked who gave this number, they said, yeah, that's like the normal norm. So we've literally not questioned anything on performance that we have done, and we are simply copy pasting it. So on goal setting, two elements I'm dropping. Org in a way which is equipped to deliver the goal, and are your goals designed in a way which are even relevant for the company beyond 3 to 6 months. And a combination of this will actually give you a org design, a team composition, and how to eventually become much sharper at writing goals, which will have meaningful movement in the company. So would love to kind of take a pause here and just ask if this is making sense. Is this something that you guys experience? Is this even a relevant question to ask? And have these thoughts come to your mind that we are too vague and generic in the way we right now do goal setting?
Can I add a point over here, Karthik?
Yes,
From
please.
my experience, we have seen that we see the analytics of the hiring, right?
Yeah,
And especially since I worked in the pharma organizations, here it is more the demand versus supply. When you
yeah,
see there are only few organizations in the pharma industry, and
yeah,
the people keep moving, so we typically take the average, and then we have fixed the tat. So that's how the process is made. So I don't say it's a way, but we have seen the analytics, and then the decision has been made that to hire a pharma a scientist in this x number of days. Otherwise, again, there's a competition out there in the market.
yeah,
So here I also say that the HR analytics plays a very important role in deciding the goals of the the recruiters, or for that matter for in the HR also. Yeah,
yeah.
that's my point of view.
No, absolutely. And I'm just gonna just leave one more question. If truly you were to be better than other pharma companies, how do you reduce the time which is average by 20%? That in itself will increase the talent density, speed of hiring, and almost so. The moment we have said, okay, this is the number, now can the talent or the center of excellence person, whoever is working on this metric, if you are able to get consistently 100 guys in a year instead of 30 days to 15 days, what does that do to a company? Now that's a much harder, beautiful problem to show to a CEO, that I'll get you better people in half the time, what does it look like? I think that's the evolution of the quality of conversations I'm saying maybe HR needs to do now.
Exactly. Thanks. That's a good valid point. And I
Yeah.
also feel that that's directly proportional to the attrition percentage.
Correct. Now, even in attrition, for example, right? We have exit interviews. Sorry, I'm digressing, Himanshu, a bit. I'm just because it's very relevant. So when we do exit interviews, the constant problem is you ask questions, why are you leaving? Now, we all know that exit interviews are ineffective because most people don't like to speak the truth. And if you ask them in a boomerang after they have gone, they are most likely not to respond. Or even if they respond, you're always doing a post-mortem. That's where Santosh's ONA essentially is a great predictor. Through social networks can you predict attrition? But there is another way, like we are experimenting, and again these are all experiments we have just started. I said in exit interview, can I ask questions in a way, and this is where behavioral science comes in. Can I ask a question in a way? What psychometric assessment does, it asks the same question 7 times to see if there is consistency in response. So instead of asking, are you exiting because of career opportunity, compensation, manager problem, this and that, we are asking, if I was to increase your comp by 15%, would you have still considered this decision? Now, if someone says, no, yeah, even if you increase my comp by 15%, I would have still taken this decision. That's almost saying that there is some deeper problem in the company. Even more money would have not made me stay. But when you generally straightforward ask a question, people will say, yeah, better growth opportunity. So what we are saying is, whatever process you have, that process has a goal in it. In that goal, is there some level of behavioral science, social science, pure biology, or some level of understanding of how humans operate within that structure is so rudimentary that you'll never get any meaningful exercise. So that's where I'm just defining the quality of a goal.
Yeah. And then let's move on to the process that we
Yeah.
follow in terms of the goal setting. So
Yeah.
what exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Karthik, going to take this up?
Yeah. Okay. How many of you have MBO versus OKR versus balance scorecard?
As a debate in your head, that what is right.
And what do you guys actually do, and which one do you think is better?
Yeah.
Karthik, just to add, I use all the three methods, OKR, MBO, and then balance scorecard at various organizations for various groups, right? And sometimes
Nice.
it came from the senior management when they attended some sessions in Harvard and they want to come and implement, let's say tomorrow we'll go for OKRs. And let's say completely abolish smart cards, we'll go for balance scorecards because it gives some kind of holistic approach. So at least I have seen all kinds of permutations and combinations. Now, the one of the fundamental philosophy, what I like about OKR, at least for certain groups, it delinks the performance management conversation with the compensation benefits. Now,
Yeah.
it creates one more problem for me. I mean, at least in the Indian context in the manufacturing, it actually destabilizes the entire performance management process itself because people are not because they don't have the compensation link, hence they don't pay any attention to the goal setting or the entire process. So which one is good? I don't know, but I like the concept of OKR because it gives very brief, not so complicated. And then there are some what I call the objectives, and then what I call the timelines are very clear, but only for certain team members. It can't be manufacturing shop floor supervisors, or let's say my retail front end sales executives. It can be through mid level management team, let's say senior managers. I'm guessing grades or designations. And when it comes to balance scorecard, what I have seen, even though I have seen balance scorecard being implemented for executives, assistants, and senior executives, and whatnot everywhere. I found out that the balance scorecard is basically at the leadership level. When I say leadership, who actually leads teams, let's say vice presidents or what are called AVPs, for them it makes sense as per my understanding.
Okay.
Super.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, so interestingly, and yesterday me and Imanshu were debating and laughing about it. OKR essentially comes from a foundational principle of MBO. So the operating system is MBO, and OKR is just a simple layer application.
Sophistication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And OKR was always designed for alignment, and MBO was designed for accountability. But because OKR is so cool, and Google popularized it, and it just somehow makes you feel you're doing something innovative, so many people are driving accountability through OKRs. And I am yet to see any company that has successfully, effectively done accountability through OKR. Eventually, they kind of just make a cocktail of thoda MBO, thoda OKR, and just make sure OKR is there as a poster boy. And अंदर MBO ही चल रहा है उसके OKR के नाम पे, and that's how convoluted that is. And I think it does has an impact on employee experience on how they understand goals. क्या लास्ट पर्सन ऑन ग्राउंड को इतना एम्बिगुअस प्रोसेस समझ में आता है क्या, राइट?
Yeah.
Snigdha has said something interesting. MBO is good, but when we face deployment challenges where the last person does not relate to goals,
Yeah.
almost goals are, you know what? This is my favorite topic.
Yeah,
When I
and I
see,
think in this firsthand, this has been happening for the eighth year now with StatCraft. So it's a company which is into construction of hydropower dams, and all safety is paramount. Now the
yeah,
safety goal comes from the CEO sitting in Norway. It gets deployed everywhere, but to the last person who is in a support staff somewhere, not related, they say, why am I penalized for this goal? Well, safety is something bigger, but even other goals like that, the last person never understand that how this has been just given to me and now I am penalized for that.
Yeah.
So I've always found the difference. Yeah.
Yes. And that's like a batsman is told that take more wickets. And
Yeah.
then he's confused, how will I take more wickets? Because my CEO is a batsman, is a bowler. So
Absolutely.
that's the fundamental thing that's there. So when we were discussing, I think the core of goal setting is whoever is playing the game is aware about what is he playing about, and where or how I will get to see that whether I have performed or not.
Hmm.
As long as we can define that okay, this calls winning and this calls losing, and that is objective, available, measurable, and there is no debate about it. There is like we'll go into the evaluation and review and we'll see about that. As long as we have the right system structures to say you have won or you have not won, I think that's where the debate can end. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter you take MBOs, OKRs, balance scorecards, as
Yeah.
long as yeah, sorry.
And I think system per se are all good. There are no
Yeah.
problems with the systems. I think it's the way, and the underlying thing which I sort of always see in this is accountability versus responsibility conundrum and issues around that. That
Yeah.
can we share accountability? Can we share responsibility? There is a principle which says yes, accountability can be shared, but responsibility has to be only with one person. Now this is where people often get confused, and then they land up into all these conflicts.
Yeah.
So just first hand experience on these things, I think everyone would have seen that. Yeah.
Correct. And it's like using scissors where you need to use hammer. The
Yeah.
purpose of goal is not that. Purpose of goal is to say whether you win or you did not win. Rest all happens to some other processes. When we start expecting that one thing will give me everything, that's where the process starts losing its value. What does
Hmm.
it design for?
True. Yeah.
Good. Let's move into the next conversation that we keep doing, that whether goal setting should be democratic, which is everyone's opinion should be accounted for, or it should be autocratic. It's top down. That's how a goal should be set. Uh,
Timothy, just a small doubt. Sorry to interrupt. Just a small
yeah,
doubt. Now,
yeah, yeah.
through goal setting, for goal setting to use different kinds of methods, whichever we said that OKR or let's say MBO or what do you call the balance scorecard, anything, should we have some kind of organizational maturity, or are we going to develop organizational maturity to some of these goal setting methods?
Again, as I'm saying, that using scissors for hammers, organizational maturity will happen through the process of goal setting. That heaviness that we are bringing to this process itself. The performance management system का first step, which is deciding what is the goal of the organization. Process generally are not relevant as long as the person who is doing the job knows he's winning or he's losing. If we can make that communication aligned, it doesn't matter that what is the process and what's the maturity of the organization. I think Karthik has good take on maturity of the organization and how does it look like. Karthik, you want to bring that conversation in?
No,
No,
in
yeah,
fact,
just wanted to add,
yeah,
whenever we use terms like organizational maturity, accountability, ownership, we assume that everybody understand and have the same meaning.
Yeah, very true.
So it may be useful. What do we mean by that?
Yeah.
yeah,
Because largely the term maturity came to describe an organization which has a growth phase and maturity phase and stability phase. That's how traditionally organized. You look at a puppy, you look at a human being, you say that, okay, now this guy is adolescent and he is growing up stage and now he's a matured guy. And why are you not behaving like a matured guy? But when we talk about a complex network of people in an organization, what do we call maturity? And is that state of a static maturity, is it going to be there in the current situation? It's also a good question to really. But what we mean, I understand the meaning is my organization ready for some formal processes of management? That may be the meaning that you, looked at.
yeah,
That's a valuable question to look at.
Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
No, and my only thing is the whole conversation right now is about actually simplifying things and rather than making them more complex. So, org maturity, for example, when we talk about scale, most people think of only going up. In my head, scale is also about having organizations' ability to go down when needed. So, a process, if it's simple and effective, will live its lifetime. And I think when we start making things complex is when we kind of land up getting into this mix of readiness or not readiness. I think idea was, this is what I need to do, this is what success looks like, this is what I'll get evaluated on. As long as these very simple steps are clear, actually not a lot of complexity is needed. A lot of complexity has got accumulated over years.
Yeah. Good. So we move to goal setting should be democratic or autocratic. Yeah. Karthik.
No, it's a question to the group. Do you guys right?
Yeah, I just share?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, if you see the goal setting process itself, we assume that why do we set the goal? What is the main objective of the performance management process? For us, it is executing the organizational objectives, how it can be cascaded down to the next levels, and how it can be executed so that the ultimate aim of organization priorities are achieved. But if you go and ask somebody, will say that no, I want my reward. At the end of the day, how much increment I want to get. So the moment they have the objective of the performance management system itself is different, then actually goal setting process is not going to be accurate across the stakeholders is point number one. So naturally, the moment you ask somebody to do something, they'll ask, why do you want me to do this? He will say that I want money. The boss will say that I want this to be executed. The ultimate boss will say that I want the company to achieve this. This is number one. Number two, many times we actually assume the performance measure is uh, understood by the person who is executing it. So when we are setting the goals, we just give a sentence that please achieve, as we have been seeing lots of points here. I think a popular, I would say, a story they say there are three people sculpting somewhere. You go and ask one guy, he will say that I'm just breaking a stone. Somebody will say that I'm making a small idol out of it. Somebody will say that I'm trying to make create this place a spiritual place. See, this is the three same person doing. I mean, three people doing same thing, but the perspectives are different. How to bring this is the essence of the goal setting is So naturally, the moment you have to talk about this essence, then naturally it has to be democratic. It cannot be autocratic then.
Okay,
Got it.
interesting.
I think, yeah.
Uh, do others also think it should be democratic?
For me, it's
I
really
mean,
interesting. For the various cohorts, it will be. For example, it will not be autocratic across the organization or to be democratic across the organization. I think it depends on the cohort, like what we used to do. For example, in certain levels of the organization, when they're operators or let's supervisors, obviously we'll give us some goal sheet. This is the KRA, this is the number, what you're supposed to reach, what is the last number, and then do it. And probably for certain levels, probably yes, we'll take more opinion of what they felt or what they have done.
and why
Got it.
why this discrimination?
Do we call discrimination? That's a good word to use, the discrimination. But
I'm giving someone a right to have a view, and I'm saying you don't have a right. I'll tell you what to do. You just do it.
yeah, because the kind of, I mean, again, it might, yeah, the discrimination, but the what you call the, that's what I asked the earlier question, the maturity level. When some people they want to follow just, they don't want to think much. That's most like executioners. My line operator, he just wanted to be told, you do this in 8 hours or let's say in 12 hours. Don't let me think too much on that. So for those people, the targets are very clear. Probably every year there'll be 10 to 12% extension. That's all. Whereas my R&D team, or let's say my design team, or let's say my finance team, yeah, probably yes, they want to discuss and they want to iterate much.
Yeah.
Hi,
Got
can I
it.
come in? This is
Yeah,
Smita here.
yeah, yes, Mata.
Yeah.
I've been hearing this conversation. My network has been on and off, so I got logged out a couple of times.
No
It's
worries.
very important to understand how these goal setting as a practice and all the history behind all this. Okay,
Yeah.
so unfortunately, it has evolved so much that it lost its relevance long back. The way Lok and Ladam, if you read their research paper, you will understand that goal setting was created to create a sense of healthy competition amongst groups to be able to push them to achieve more. But then in the process, what happened? We made it like a process. Then the process became a ritual. Then people didn't have time to write their own goals. They thought it is HR's, KRA to ensure everybody had goals. So then they outsourced it to their managers. Managers are too busy to write the goals. They thought, why don't HR create a guideline? So somewhere in the process, it evolved to an extent that it lost its purpose in the first place, I would say. Secondly, it has to be democratic. If you really look at goal setting in its real sense, imagine, it's like this. Somebody says, hey, you are overweight and you need to lose weight. The way we approach that would be very different from you deciding that, yes, I want to be healthy, therefore I want to lose weight. Right. So the entire psychology towards approaching the goal itself will change when you make it democratic. But because there is a deadline, there is a process, everybody in the company has to have a goal in the system by some date. To simplify things, some organizations have predefined goals. Some organizations use AI to define goals, and some organizations, I don't know what they do, but it has changed its shape and and the purpose with which it was started, I would say. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my 2 cents. Sorry.
No, that's great. uh, Maybe for sake of time, we have a lot to cover. We should definitely do a part two of it, because I do have very strong views on democracy versus autocracy, right? And I'll separately connect with you, Ratna. You've made a very interesting point in the comment section, but the beauty is in the translation of theory. So we'll definitely cover on how does that get translated. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And our take is, I think, again, how do you define the process and what it is? Uh, what can happen in a democratic or a up, downward up is more on a constraints and opportunities. But the goal, like it's like teams are formed after the goal is decided, not the other way around. The team comes together and then they decide the goal. Then the relevance of the goal, which is that organization has to grow or organization has to go from point A to point B, which is what the leadership responsibility is to set the strategic context and the vision. I think it has to be autocratic from the perspective of that, okay, there is a direction and this is where we are going to go, and this is the context why we are taking certain goals on a quarterly or an annual basis. Definitely an alignment is cost. So sometimes taking alignment is considered as getting uh, part of goal setting. So that distinction as the process is run is very important. Question that we are coming up, which is why even a goal is required? Like why are you choosing what you're choosing as a target? That's the crux of the question that we need to ask. What's the context in which this goal exists? I think somebody said that, okay, we are making a temple, and for that temple, I'm making a wall. Then that wall has a context which in goal setting process is always required to be there, and that context could be anything: vision, purpose, long term, short term, wherever the organization takes a stand for. But if that context is there, then the goals have a soul. Otherwise, it becomes a repetitive process of just doing what we did last year. Anything to add on this, Karthik?
No, we can go on.
Okay, so I'm just summarizing the overall goal setting. I think, and I'm going from last question to the first question. The most important thing is the goal setting process takes care of the context of the organization into the picture. Do we choose the cycles in a way that the goal remains relevant? Just imagine mid of the game, the goal change and who knows where we are going. So how conscious we are that our cycles are designed to take care of the changes that are happening. How teams and organization, how my teams are designed in a way that they're agile enough, and not a single framework is applied enough for goal setting to create an impact that you're looking for. And last, the purpose of this whole thing is to create alignment and clarity. As long as these two things are happening to the last level, I think the process has done its job. Uh, anything else may not be required for this process, and then we'll see what other steps have to come in. Yeah. Karthik, next.
And Himanshu, you should ask that question, right? You asked when a salesperson comes and says, "I'll hit 1 crore this month," we never ask him why not 1.5 or why not 80 lakhs. How did
Yeah.
you come to that 1 crore? Is a very
Yeah.
important question to ask, which makes people then work backwards and come up with at least a good scientific theory on how do I decide my goals, right? So a lot of it is about just asking good questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
This
Let's
is
move
your
to the next important. Yeah.
yes.
Now that's where we jump into the next phase. So after the goals are set, now the conversations comes into picture. Uh, so first thing, is performance conversation same or similar to performance evaluation? How do you see that? What is performance conversation and what is performance evaluation? Are they same or are they different?
They are different.
Yeah.
They can be different, yeah.
They are very different.
And you want to say more about it?
Yeah, I think my name is Deepak Sharma.
Hi,
I'm
Deepak.
joining from US. They are very different in terms of because many times performance evaluations are one-sided, and performance conversations are always a dialogue between two people. And it's very important because these days a lot of organizations are going towards performance conversations rather than old things when there was only evaluation used to happen.
Yeah.
So I think the culture of conversation is very, very important because that way you are giving a space to individual to share his concerns, and also you are also sharing his, whether it's motivating or sharing the areas of improvement. I think conversations are more open, giving the space to the person and allowing them to speak.
Perfect. So that's a basic difference, that the evaluation and conversations are not same, Deepak. That's the beautifully you have put it together. Then let's say how many conversations are enough for conversations to deliver performance or outcome? The
Can I
next
just
question.
chime in? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, this is
Hi,
Shweta.
Shweta.
Hi. So yeah, very interesting. And I would say that the purpose of performance conversation and performance evaluation, right, is such that if you do not have the ongoing feedback mechanism, right, I don't think then it just solves the purpose.
Absolutely.
And that is where, you know, a lot of organizations that I have worked with, there was one such organization where you had quarterly conversations, right? And that is where the previous part of the goal setting as well, when you kind of reviewed every Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, if this is relevant, if it's fitting in the context.
Yeah.
From the time to an organization where I am right now, where they do not do an ongoing feedback mechanism, but it's always the evaluation and telling you what the rating is, right? And then you know, it's opening the box of Pandora where people are like, how and why, and you know, everything happens. And just probably a different thought to all of this. It's very interesting to understand this process, whoever is facilitating it, right? On the HR business partner side of things, where I come from, I feel it's so often that you know, the proverb or the phrase that the cobbler children doesn't have shoes fit so well, because how often does for your HR function or your HR teams does this happen? And when you have to translate this to a business, or you're handling a grievance in performance, or you're talking about it, or you're facilitating the conversation, or doing calibration, right? How does this all make sense to you if it never happens for you? Right, so I think it's a very broader sort of a spectrum that you have to touch
Yeah.
upon and get everything right. But if I have to stick to this particular aspect, I think it's the ongoing feedback mechanism that's really important to have performance conversation that translates into performance evaluation. And then it's not like, hey, you know, this is it, and this is what you've gotten, and then it takes
Yeah.
care of a lot of things eventually. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you
And
for coming
Himanshu,
in.
I
And
think I would like to
yeah,
add one
Deepak.
more thing to what Shweta is saying. I think it is very important that these conversations also needs to happen at the time of goal setting, because this is not
Ah,
only a
True.
conversation which is happening
Yeah.
midterm or at the
Yeah.
end. The most important conversation is at the goal setting time.
correct. And that's where this fundamental question comes in, that how many are enough to drive performance? That's where even a quarter or an annual or a mid, they all are like again thinking from a fixed framework that, okay, I have to do a conversation, because if it's happening quarterly, then again it's going as an input for some evaluation. Versus looking conversation as a tool, which I think somebody was mentioning in the first step. The purpose is to set accountability, responsibility, corrections, and feedback. Now, how many are enough is the question that need to be asked in the context of the team, in the context of the organization, to say that, okay, this number or this frequency is required to move or deliver the outcome that is required. Yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah. So
Can I?
I'm
Yeah. Can I answer?
yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. So,
Himanshu, you are cracking up, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Shiva, go
yeah.
ahead.
Okay. There can be a no definite number, right? Yeah. On an overall sense, we could have a quarterly or half yearly, or you can say a yearly ones. But in my view, there can be a continuous process that should be going on at a micro level or at an individual level, on a team to team basis, so that there is no need for them to wait the quarter to come, to evaluate on all these things. And also,
Right.
on a micro level there should be a continuous one, but on a major level, yeah, these should be there, like a quarterly or yearly, or
Sure.
that is.
And it should not be like, okay, manager is waiting. Now HR has announced, please do your conversation. And then manager is fixing it up and then setting it up. That's the whole thing that we are right now challenging. That's the fallacy in the whole process. Then it doesn't become a conversation. It becomes an evaluation. Karthik, yes.
Yeah. So I'm saying, again, I think we've gone into a lot of things. I want to just really simplify this, right?
Yeah.
Like, we are discussing the feature and I'm constantly saying, what is the benefit? We are saying conversation is important, employee needs to be heard, manager, these are all features. You're telling me there is 20 GB memory in the phone. I'm saying there are 2000 songs in your pocket. So I think we need to first understand, and why people don't like HR process, they really don't know what is in it for me. In fact, someone earlier said कि यार उससे गोल का बात करो तो वो बोलता है रिवॉर्ड क्या है. It's not a bad thing. Actually, it's a great thing, because anyone who is not interested in knowing what will I get at the end of doing this is anyways not interested. As humans, we fundamentally operate with like a pain or a pleasure principle. So if I don't have a reward or outcome at the end of it, so what I'm actually encouraging is that performance conversation. And you're right, Snigdha, managers are not able to do it. So I'm asking a very important question: what is the least amount of information you need to make a good decision? That for me should answer the design of the process. So my continuous performance, so by the way, I've implemented continuous performance management, and my goal was I'm going to reduce the cognitive load of my managers. Most people feel HR processes are so hard, time consuming, and in a world where everything is available in like reel in 90 seconds, cab in 3 minutes and pizza in 30 minutes, you're asking someone to do an extremely deep level of work. It's really hard. So what do you do? So Deloitte has this some very interesting concept of continuous performance management, where every month you design a very simple architecture where managers have to just answer these questions, and those are super simple, not takes doesn't take more than 10 minutes. Things like, if you were to increase 25% of this person's role, would you sleep well at night? Or if this person was to leave tomorrow, what level of impact will it have on your team? Or questions very, very simple: would you fight to keep this person on the team? So what happens is, if every month I'm answering these, and obviously we kind of worked more on it, and we made it more non subject to interpretation. But at the end of 52 weeks, if at the end of 4 months you have someone that you're not going to fight for on the team, you're not going to sleep well if you increase their charter by 25%, and you put people on those 4 very simple quadrants basis responses, actually helps managers reflect on these aspects very well. And I'm happy to separately connect and give a lot of brief on the design and the implementation of it and the learning we are getting. By the way, when we ask people, people said, I'll fight for everyone on the team, right? And that became a great conversation starter. That is everyone equally important? Do you know how to prioritize? So I think in performance conversation, architecture is very important. What information will the manager get which will make her or his life better on the talent is important. And last is, how do you reduce the cognitive load while people implement this process? So I think those are 3 very critical elements of power conversations. We have introduced performance discussions training to FTMs. Yeah, again, Swati, I just feel training is like Ozempic, works great for 2 days and then people fall back to their old systems. I think it has to almost become a part of architecture or systems thinking, as Santosh or Sejin talks about. Yeah.
Karthik, one very simple thing that I realized in these conversations, I've worked most of my life with engineers and they
Yeah.
understand everything in an Excel. So if you give them, like you said, those top 5 questions that you have to only answer this about this person, they do it bang on. But if you
Yeah.
ask them to make a summary, storyline, or anything, it's very, very hard for them. So I think
Right.
maybe this point is taken that these kind of things can support them. Yeah.
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 One
And
more
AI.
important, sorry,
Yeah. No, please go ahead.
yeah, important thing that we normally miss is that we expect the person to perform, but there is no conversation or recording happening on what is that you will give, what all the resources you will be giving him to execute that. That's never recorded. For example, I can execute a 100 crore project, but will
Yeah.
I ABCD? No, that nobody talks about. It
Yeah.
always one-sided. So naturally, that does not give a comfort to the person who is actually performing also actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. And I think one of the thing that needs to be apart from the architecture and the frequency and this, the next thing comes is what's the climate of the performance conversation and how do you curate that? And that's where probably Snigdha Karthik was saying that
Yeah.
trainings play a critical role in that dimension of the work. That
Yeah.
how does a conversation creates an opportunity to be safe? For
Yeah.
example, each conversation feels like a threatened conversation where
Yeah.
ISR, you were saying that the person is not telling that, okay, give me resource and I will be able to produce result, is
Yeah.
fundamental a conversation that needs to happen in a immediate frequency level so that organization gets benefit out of it.
Yeah.
So what kind of climate that conversation being created, and here also the frequency plays a very critical role. So imagine you are talking about performance once a year, then you are exposing that threat environment, and that's only happens once a year. But if the frequencies are high and the conversation about performance is more regular, the likelihood of conversation to be a more safe space is there. By design only you are ensuring that there is a safe climate. Definitely there are inputs that you can give to managers in terms of training, how to conduct an SOP of it, again using behavioral science and more coaching techniques in those conversations, the flow of it and the overall experience with which the conversation is happening. In our organization, apart from training, giving them a structure, we take an active feedback on the conversation was empowering or not, which the manager has to capture and keep it for his reflection. That every conversation and the frequencies are designed as such. So in our organization, we are calling it. Karthik says it. The name is not right, but what does it mean inside is important. So we call it as a power conversation, and we have defined what does it mean inside our organization. So one-on-ones are not called as one-on-ones; they are called as power conversations, where manager and employee are working to see that both of them after conversation moves out with experiencing power, that they felt that, okay, a manager feels free that I've given the feedback, the person has listened to me and is going to do something about it. That's the biggest worry of a manager, that if I tell him a feedback he will leave me, or how do I give a feedback in a way that he listens to me. An employee moves out with an experience that, okay, I have my views are being listened to, and there's an alignment of what is going to happen in the next before the next conversation that is coming in. So I think this summarizes the key elements of designing architecture of the conversation, that take care of the climate, which has to see experience flow, safety, take care of the architecture, which needs to be simple. See that conversations is not just about outcome, but there are inputs, outputs, and here comes the competency behaviors, what needs to be learned as a part of this, and see that they don't become an evaluation conversation and they remain a conversation which is designed to improve performance.
Yeah. I'm leaving one question.
I think I'm
Yeah. I'm leaving
summarizing.
one
Yeah,
question
yeah.
for everyone. I've asked this question to every company and every team. On whom does the onus of feedback lie? Is it on the employee that if I have a problem I need to ask for feedback, or is it on the manager that you are responsible for giving feedback? Most times this is not articulated. So at the end of the year, employee says, yeah, if you had an issue you should have come, and manager says, yeah, if you wanted feedback you should have come. So that nuance of, is it clearly defined who has the onus of giving feedback within the culture, is very important bedrock of this power conversations. Yeah. Cool.
I have
Okay.
a small doubt. Can I ask?
Yeah.
We're running out of time. I will be very quick. In the performance conversation, when there is this what are called power dyad, that there's a manager and then the team member. So before entering the conversation itself, the design is flawed because there is a power element involved. So the conversation, I mean, whichever conversation, conversation in development, or let's say goal feedback, or let's say any kind of training or anything, before entering the conversation itself, because of the power hierarchy in the dyad, it's by default flawed. Now, how are you going to either reduce or make it equal? Because training itself is not a major instrument, but how do we do that? I don't know whether I conveyed my question properly or not.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'll recreate. The question is how in the by design there's a power dynamics involved. How do you make it safe, and how do you set that this power dynamics के around conversation कैसे करना है? Is that what you're
बराबर वही है,
saying, Amar?
yeah, true.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I was covering, that this right now, the structure that there is a manager and there's an employee, how do you see that this conversation remains safe? Obviously, that's what we were trying to say in a climate part, that
Analytic
that needs to
cues.
be take care of it. One simple thing that is there is increase the frequency of this conversation. Like one simple input. See that these conversations are more frequent. This dynamic will remain, and it will take some time to change, play, training, da 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 da. Da. But increasing frequency takes this off, because it's more. That's why the continuous performance conversations come into picture. But when you're exposed to fear, fear reduces. I think that's the principle that you can look into. Yeah, Karthik.
Yeah. No, yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a very fair question. And
Yeah.
some places, yeah, my view is that, this is Cinderella syndrome where someone is going to come and save me. No one is coming to save you. If you can't do a tough conversation to save your life, then I don't think you fundamentally, will. These are exactly the things that you have to be prepared for. How to do a tough conversation, how to hold a conversation in a way which doesn't challenge someone's identity, how to punch up. In fact, as you grow senior in life, and if you have to work with founders and CEOs, in fact, this lands up becoming literally the default mode, because otherwise there is no way you will be able to answer it. So I will put some responsibility on the individual as well, because this is not a like manager is obviously accountable, but I'm saying this is not one person's job, right? So yeah, yeah,
Good. I think enough enough thoughts
yeah,
and confusions we are leaving you with. Okay, let's move to performance evaluation, Karthik. Yeah.
yeah. Do you want to quickly click
Yeah.
on the question?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is pretty much the second last part, right? Very
Yeah.
quickly, I obviously actively talk about this quite a bit, that I think self-assessments are absolute waste of time because of the way they are done. Self-assessment gives someone a feeling that I have a voice in how I will be evaluated, while the reality is that most companies don't change ratings because someone has rated. Second, it requires very high level of maturity to objectively self review. Right, we all have an inflated sense of awareness about who we are. So I personally feel, if you're not going to consider this, then having self assessment as a part of process kind of convolutes the whole dynamic and creates a hope that, I've given my view. And now most times, I don't think performance evaluation is about qualitative conversations. And again, it's a very counterintuitive take. Performance conversations are for quality. Performance evaluation is pure scorecard measurement. This was the target. Did you achieve or not? And uh, part of it, second part of it, I think we've completely got it wrong by putting ratings: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Meet expectation, does not meet expectation, high meet expectation, partially meet expectation, exceed expectations. Because words have power, and words and numbers create identity. The moment you tell me I am 2 on 5, I am not thinking that on this goal I am 2 on 5. You think I am 2 on 5, which naturally is gonna create conflict. So what at least my recommendation is, from the beginning, the goal and the objective of evaluation is, it's like India, whether India won or did not won the match. Did this was the score to be chased, this was the score you made. It is not a qualitative conversation. Oh, you could have played this in power play. No. So one, it cannot be, giving impressions of self evaluation being important when it's not considered. Second, for every goal, at least what I'm kind of at least on my way to implement, goals were met, goals were partially met, goals were not met, period. No getting into that 2.75 rating. It's extremely simplified way of measuring a scorecard. That's where I stand. Himanshu obviously has a slightly different view than mine, but this is what kind of at least my architecture of the nuance of the architecture looks like.
Correct. And since it's a scorecard, I think the data structures of the company and the data flow of the company should plugged into the goal settings and structures, so that the debate about goals were met or not met, or the debate about evaluation of the goal is not a debate. It's a clear dashboard which says goals met, did not met. And that data structure requirement makes performance evaluation more and more objective. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
You
I
want
think just one point I just want to add.
Yeah.
Normally, the performance evaluation will not stop at either self-evaluation or the evaluation with the manager. It also goes beyond it, telling that relative performance of the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You may be 4 out
Yeah.
of 4, but compared to other guy, you are not. So it may be a little bit more than 4. That
Yeah.
actually needs lots of maturity from the person who actually evaluates, and also the maturity it takes from the person who receives also, so that he should understand, okay, it is my performance relative to the other person, I'm not that good. So when these two things does
So
not happen, I think this will never end. I would say this evaluation will never be complete
So
also.
very interesting, yes, sir. And that's where I think the next slide we are going to talk about the role of reward, giving a feedback to you performed or not. So
Yeah,
this
perfect.
context or conversation of relativity comes because you have to distribute a reward in a certain way. If that
And the perspective
becomes a
matters.
constraint or definition of whether you are performed or not, is the flaw that we have been talking about. That whether you met your goal or did not met your goal is a very, it has no relativity. It's very absolute. आप game जीते या नहीं जीते. With that, will you get increment or not? It's a second question. It's not a first question to answer. Mixing it up creates the conundrum that you are saying. Yeah.
Perfect. Perspective differ, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And the second thing now, in evaluation, what comes, I think, opinions on that should it be part of evaluation or not? Or let's say, should upward feedback or attrition or 360-degree be part of performance, the evaluation or not?
Do you guys right now have it? Quick.
But this is not practical to implement for all. So normally it happens for a level and above. So 360
Okay.
happens only particular level.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Karthik, you want to add on it?
No, I think I can just share what we kind of at least realize, that competency frameworks just don't work. Right? They are literally, most people throughout the year don't even look at those competency frameworks, and honestly, eventually this lands up becoming an academic exercise where there is not a lot of. So for me, it's simple. If someone has delivered on the job, they have competencies. If they've not delivered, they did not show competencies. And I don't think having words in performance usually goes very well. Upward feedback, interesting. I've seen this. Upward feedback and 360-degree feedback are great as long as they're extremely behavior led and not conceptual. But when to do it is a very interesting conversation. I don't have an answer for that. I think if we do it closer to appraisal, naturally, ability to process that information is a big question mark right now. But at what time to do these things? Should these be decoupled from performance evaluation and go into performance development, so to say, which is a completely separate part? Is where at least I'm completely broken. 360
Yeah.
degree for direct heads. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Again, 360 degree has 70, 60, 40 questions. I don't think any process that has such high cognitive load does well. I think it can be simple 4 or 5 questions, which are very critical around a peer or a manager. And again, question, what is the least amount of information you need to make a good decision? I think we should at least reconsider how do we currently do these systems and processes. Yeah.
Superb. Let's move on to the next part, which is rewards and recognition. Karthik, yes.
Yeah. So I think most companies I realize don't have a reward philosophy. I think most have just a very template where they have fixed increment, they have variable increment, or they will have ESOPs, right? Or they have certain benefits added. But at a philosophical level, is there a story that as a company you've made? I think is very very critical. Where which means rewards over time and total rewards compensation philosophy, and there are a lot of companies that have done a great product level job on this. I think is very very critical. I've seen a lot of companies actually giving benefits like education for their children if they have done well, which in a way was very innovative, and I heard, which motivates a lot of people, because when it comes to family and taking care of them, I've seen. So how do you link emotional rewards to someone's reward philosophy is a very very interesting concept. Is something that I would encourage everyone to explore. And how do you differentiate your top performer from a bottom performer? This is one very very important place where I've seen most companies operating, including us by the way, right? That the top increment is 20% or 22%, four rater has got 18% or 16%. So technically what you're saying is that the best performance outlier is just 4 5% times percent rewarded more than the second best. So there is a beautiful case study and almost a research paper on power law distribution, where Apple implemented it, where the top performer gets 50% more increment than the second best. And that's the steep graph that you're able to show, which is actually visible in sports, where Ronaldo would be kind of getting disproportionately paid more than the second guy. So if you want to build a super aggressive performance led companies, does this gap of 3 4% at every level truly leading to any kind of reward philosophy, right? And that's what at least me and Imanshu are challenging with the way companies do right now.
Great. And I think the next important question, does reward structure or a constraint in budget change the meaning of performance or performer? I think that's what we were talking about in the back thing, that the relative ratings, the boxing, the performance, everything is coming from the constraint or the structure that you have, that we have in budget. Does that has to fuel into whether you have performed or not? And if the performance has happened and their budget is not there, that means performance has not happened. Like, really marrying these two things, that if the right stretch goals are met, that means then somebody has being a top performer. That means there has to be that trickles down into there's an enough budget or a structure available. If one of these things is not there, probably the alignment in the overall reward philosophy, goal setting, performance, and actual evaluation of whether somebody has performed or not, something is missing in that. That takes away the charm of the performance evaluation and the whole process.
And this is
Yeah.
very mainstream by the way, कि यार budget इतना ही है तो हमें इतना
Yeah.
increment देना पड़ रहा है, and then the whole metrics is changed in the performance scorecard to fit the budget.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
why writing a reward philosophy along with goal setting works.
Yeah.
So this is my goal and this is what is going to happen. Not when the evaluation has happened on the in the February or January or December, and how do I versus doing it along with the goal setting stage makes this process more aligned with what we need to accomplish. Karthik, rewards and recognitions together. Yeah.
Yeah. So I again, very very self-explanatory, guys. I personally feel that reward, and this is something I was sharing with Himanshu by the way yesterday. So after every match, Indian cricket team has something called dressing room man of the match, which is not the guy who got rewarded in front of the world. In the dressing room, they call out those little small performances, which kind of turned the match, which may not look significant, but they were critical. And I was telling Himanshu, these are highest paid guys in the world, and they are on top of their financial game, professional game, and yet they become childlike when they are getting recognized. So even when you're paid differently, your deep need to get validated and recognized is absolutely same. So Virat Kohli, even though he has all the centuries, still loves to get those man of the match, man of the series awards. And I think we have not explored that meaning of recognition in organizations enough. We have literally created structural solutions where they know that every quarter किसी का number आके इसको मिल ही जाएगा. And the whole joy of seeing someone perform and truly getting recognized is completely out. So what we have been discussing, at least between us, has been how do we bring that charm and emotion and authenticity in recognition, which can actually be equal or more than the reward itself, right? And very very important point in my view.
Yeah. And this, again, organizations do R&R, but the context is I want to bring engagement in the organization. The crux that we are trying to say is bring performance evaluation, increment, and marry and see what happens. That's the way we can learn from the science of it. Yeah, Karthik,
Uh,
couple of things that you want to share about. Yeah.
is there relevant design individual performance? Yeah, so I don't know how it's designed for you guys. I've been kind of breaking my head on should the goals be rewarding individual performance or team performance. And there is a beautiful talk by the coach of LinkedIn's CEO, right, Fred Kaufman, where he has spoken about local maxima versus global maxima and the pros and cons of it. Right, when you reward individual performance, people lose sight of the larger performance, and when you keep larger performance, some individual level slack off happens, and when you do a combination, somehow both kind of get compromised. So he said eventually everybody is skewed on and screwed on performance management. The companies that win are the ones who screw less than others, right? So in a way, have 70% individual goals, 30% company goals. What is the science and what kind of combination will really drive best performance is something I'm kind of still exploring. And I think as HR practitioners, I think it'll be an interesting conversation to do as to what is the right combination of individual versus team.
It goes like
Yeah.
75-25, then 50-50, and 25-75 from bottom to. That's the thumb rule. Everybody follows, I think.
I think that's where the challenge is that now it's
Yes,
time to challenge this.
true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good. So the last, I think PIP is, Karthik, you're going to touch, but I'm going to touch the last part and then you can come to PIP is like, does my reward mechanism explicitly answers what gets promoted, what gets fired, and what keeps you in the team, along with along with everything that we are talking about on the last four questions. So that explicitly is known to people that that reward or a reprimand mechanism is in place, which is going to be played as the evaluation happens. Yeah. And that's where the PIP conversation comes into picture. That does PIP actually helps to make to create a comeback? I think we would like to hear from you that is it just a tool to ask somebody to go in a softer manner, or they are designed to say that okay, let's bring back the person um, back to the performance.
Yeah.
Normally, the
Okay.
moment somebody is in PIP,
Any
that
take on
means
it?
that you know that's it.
Sorry.
That's if somebody is on PIP, that is not so positive. But actually, it should be positive. Logically speaking, PIP is to improve the I would say development, developing the person. Should the aim should be that, but I don't think that is actually perceived that way. I'll not say it is made that way. It is perceived that way. It's
Yeah.
like somebody was
Also,
somebody was
sorry.
telling you are paid salary for what you are supposed to do, like hiring people. But how fast you hire is the performance. You improve against 30 days. If you can do it in 28 days, then you will get the reward. But you are supposed to hire. No, that's the objective itself is flawed somewhere, and naturally then how you can expect a performance improvement plan to come. So it starts from the goal setting level till your evaluation. It includes I would say sometimes relative performance. I have done the same thing. He has also done something. What difference between you and the other person? That is the development goal. So, I mean, the
I would
perception has to change. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
I would say, it's a mindset shift. Over and over, the business leaders and the business teams have to be told, this is not for somebody to get rid of, but it is for them to set them up for success in their roles, right? The moment, they put somebody on PIP, they have lost all hopes and, they don't want to do anything. And, then they start actually documenting where they have never documented stuff before, right? So I think it's a mindset shift, and I personally have seen a lot of people flip around when they have been coached, being supported, being given feedback and told them, hey, this is not really to penalize you or have you go, but this is just probably realigning the expectation, what's not working and how can we make it better. So that's what
Interesting.
worked for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the interesting
One last
thing that
point I would
one
like to add. I think,
experiment.
hello?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Yeah.
Swati. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Go ahead,
think I
Swati.
think it's not fair on us just to put a PIP for the employee alone. I think even manager plays a very important role, because continuous feedback, the concept of the simplicity and the behavioral sciences, having a continuous feedback. Agar, I relate this example to our home. If the children are not doing good, you correct them in the start. You don't correct after the final exams are over. So I think for me, the take is, as a HR, I did my best to ensure that the manager, आप कितना भी policy लिखो, आप कितना भी record लिखो, whatever you do, if the manager is not having that feedback with the employee, that continuous feedback, I think all this doesn't play, any role at all.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%.
Very true,
Yeah.
Swati. And that's where I was sharing a couple of practices that we are experimenting with. One is like one experiment we have done is PIP can only happen if at least two one-on-ones have happened as a starting point. So if somebody comes and says, start a PIP, HR asks that question, like how many power conversations you had. If that answer is not there, we don't
Exactly.
start the PIP.
Yes,
And one of
yes,
the
yes.
devil of the PIP that we have been experimenting and now, so
Mm,
we have even playing with the power of the word, and there is a PIP process, and then we have changed the name of the process and said coach and educate process. And then we have
mm,
said, okay, now we are relaunching, there is a PIP process. So we didn't touch that. We said there is a PIP process. Now we are putting up a coach and educate process, which will be run through
mm,
L&D, not HR. Now tell
mm.
us where the feedbacks are there. And
Correct.
there the voluntary manager saying, okay, please put them to coach and educate. I'm working with them and they are not improving. Is there an experiment we were fighting is for improvement and it was not, we are not able to actually buy it. So reintroduce the process and then look at it.
See,
So yeah,
another point quickly I
good.
wanted to add is dealing with poor performance is also part of the manager's job. So that has to be educated to the managers first. And secondly,
Yeah,
poor performance is not a person's failure. The context also fails sometimes, right? Even Virat Kohli would have got out at duck in many pitches. So some pitches are not meant for us. So the PIP timing is very important. You should not do it at the time of evaluation. That takes away the anxiety of
yeah,
PIP. Second is helping the person understand that, hey, in this context, you are not able to contribute. So can we look at a different context, maybe inside or outside the organization? So you deal with the poor performance more respectfully and not, the entire approach towards the performance or the non-performer itself changes in the manager's mind basically. So those are the two things we insist on when we talk about PIP.
Yeah. I
superb.
actually
Thanks
heard
for
a
bringing that.
company, they named PIP process Great Comebacks. They actually flipped it and they almost started celebrating that, this person has kind of made a comeback and almost changed the meaning of the word. But I loved Himanshu,
Yeah,
how many power conversations you have had is like a qualifying
yeah,
criteria for someone to go into PIP.
for
But
someone to do
Swati made
PIP.
an
Yeah,
interesting point. If you're continuously having performance conversations, honestly, PIP ka stage aayega hi nahi. You will be able to
I
kind of
get
call out
yeah,
these things much, much earlier. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think we are just taking 10 more minutes. We are on the penultimate slide, bringing everything together, saying that, okay, if you have done the architecture well, then what does this process or this system has to give to us? Uh, I think Karthik, you want to
No,
add
go
on
ahead.
to it? Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
speak about the last slide,
yeah.
which
So if everything comes together well, then fundamentally this process needs to answer a couple of questions. Like, does your performance management system creates consistent top performers? You have run that cycle, you know what has happened,
Himanshu, you're cracking up.
and this answer. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll repeat again, and Karthik, you let me know if things
yeah,
are still
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that's one part of it. So once you have run the process and continuously running it, do you have answer to this question that does your performance system creates future leaders? Uh, Post performance management, do you measure performance graph of the organization? Is it system or the process is actually helping organization to achieve its goals, or is it not? Does talent density compounds every year post reviews? So, like, there's a common thing, okay, increment aega, and then there will be attrition that is happening. That's okay. That's a common conversation. But who is leaving and who is staying back?
Himanshu, is it me or everyone is not able
Uh,
to Himanshu?
It's
your
cracking, in fact. Even I wanted to add. The
I
voice is
can't hear
cracking.
Himanshu.
In between Himanshu
or
was
push,
cracking.
or is it
Currently, I
that
think his video
would
is frozen.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, Himanshu, are you there?
Okay. Karthik, take
Why don't
this
you
up.
switch off your video?
I'm there, Karthik.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, please go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah. Karthik, can you take it on? Yeah. Because
yeah,
I'm trying, I think something is not
yeah.
working here.
I'll quickly kind of summarize, right, the essence of it essentially, that if a good performance system is working, your overall, you'll keep churning out good people, your overall leaders will be better, your company performance has to do like significantly well. I've seen a lot of companies not doing well, but people are getting rated 4 and 5. Clearly there is a breakage, right? So the simple core philosophy is, and we kind of thought of a flywheel that a good performance management will create, is consistently have like great performers breeding within the company, right? So Unilever made a beautiful book out of it called the CEO Factory, where Unilever's processes consistently created CEOs for the world, right? And this is the flywheel in our head, that if companies can have very clear standard, which is goal setting, quality coaching, which is performance conversations, fair differentiation, which is performance evaluation, meaningful consequence, which is truly people getting rewarded and recognized separately, it will increase talent density, which will further hire the better the talent, they'll set better, clearer standards. And I think this is the, in a way, the loop, and all growth comes in loop, and all efficiencies come in funnels. But all our HR processes are designed in funnels. Oh, goal setting, then performance, and that by design is designed for efficiency and not for growth, because all growth eventually is a loop cycle. So we fundamentally believe, if this is the cycle to achieve, then all the philosophical and the behavioral and the fundamental questions around performance should lead us to this, right? And we thought we'll give you a quick analogy, which is our last slide, that the only system that we thought has been consistently able to generate superstars year after year for last 50, 60 years is that Gavaskar went, Sachin came. Sachin went, Kohli came. Kohli has gone, and Shubman Gill has come. And this is not coincidence. This is clearly a system having the ability to constantly produce great talent, and that comes from a lot of architecture, a lot of process, a lot of great goals. And in a way, BCCI is a great example of how companies performance can look like, right? And this is pretty much our thought process, or all our confusions or perspectives on people performance process. And obviously this is our last slide. If they did convince you guys to kind of at least think about these things, it'll be
What
amazing.
does that mean? I don't understand it.
it simply means that, are you guys convinced or should we talk more? So yeah.
Is that Sanskrit?
No, that's Hindi.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool. So this is from us. Thank you so much. So many people turned up.
That's it, I
Almost 50.
think.
Yeah. So, and thank you to Santosh, Sejin, Manisha, everyone who kind of, and Swati. I know we have to start planning for Kairos.
Yes, yes.
Ah,
I'm here. Yes.
I'm unable
Exactly.
to start my video because it says that the host has turned it off. So
Oh,
I had switched off the video because the focus is on, yeah, the start video. But thank you so much. I think I like the discussion and this session today because of three reasons. One, it was not about having an answer, which we were looking at. Point one, we had the audacity and honesty to question some of the fundamentals which we had taken for granted. Two, we were exploring collectively that these fundamentals, when they created, served a purpose. Do they serve us now? And the third, we were leaving with the question that what else is possible? So that's a great framework to have, because whenever we created something that was to solve a problem, that problem is gone. We are still holding on to it.
correct.
Somebody would have said in an organization, we don't have any process to look at performance. They create any damn process. Now we create some process.
Yeah.
Just because of that, then everybody uses it without asking this question, is this process is serving us now? Or should we look at? So fundamentally, we looked at three things. How are we doing now? And should we question some of those fundamentals? Two, what are the problems that we may be facing when we follow what we follow now? And third, what else is possible? I think that's the reason also why there was an engagement, because this is very relatable. We're all facing the same thing. We are all trying to figure out what will work. And we are all part of this complex system. Sometimes we get frustrated that we can't do anything about it, which is also true. Yes. So I loved that interaction, and hopefully all of you had a great time. Those of you who are here, other than the question, if you wanted to just share one or two phrases or sentences to just talk about how did you experience this, that could be useful as a winding up.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I would like to start first about the feedback. So I have enjoyed a discussion with the panels and the audiences as well. Great insights. What I feel is that all the topics that we discussed, and if I compare of the practices that are being followed in the corporate culture right now, it's more left over as a jargons, corporate jargons. Two of the reason, one is the intent, because the business intent or the employee intent is is not aligned. The other is that mostly it is the reactive approach, not proactive approach for all the processes. You talked about performance conversation. The moment somebody hears from a manager that there will be a performance conversation, a negative connotation is already attached. The employee will feel that, oh, there is something missing and I've been called upon. However, it can be, let's work things out. How can we, this the things are not working it. So what we make is people oriented. We assign a problem to a people, to a person who is performing the job. We do not assign the problem to our process, right, or to identify the gaps. So the moment performance conversation or the PIP, most of you are aligned that it is a not negative term to it. So till the time business and HR is working proactively on HR people issues, on processes, things will remain like corporate jargons and will not move in the direction which everyone would like to move to. Yeah, that is all my. But I have heard great topics, great conversation, good insights. Thank you, everyone. I thoroughly enjoyed and got
Thank
learned a
you.
lot.
Anyone else? We usually allow only 3 people, that too the most intelligent people from the cohort, to give feedback. So one is already gone, one slot. 2
I am
more.
not intelligent because I didn't understand some.
Anyone else
So
wants to?
I just wanted to say thank you and being humble and to say, you know, I just loved coming here because there's also people who are willing to challenge the structure and the architecture. And of course, Santosh Babu is a dog, and I like dogs. And he wouldn't understand anything about 360 feedback. He'd just say, "Hey, food's coming. That's it. I'm there." So it's about this kind of meeting of hearts and a bit of fun, really. So thank you.
Anyone else?
I think it is relaxing for me because normally we don't talk these topics, which is against the existing process. So good opportunity for me to open up and speak anything I want regarding performance management system, I would say. Thank you.
Chiranjeev? Yeah. Your hand is up. So
I think thank you to Karthik, Himanshu, everyone for this. I think I'll have 2 takeaways. One is about pushing back business when there's a PIP conversation coming up, and question and ask the right question, which is how many power conversations did you have? And it's a personal reflection because I've had times wherein I went for a PIP at the initial part of my career and then realized I should have pushed back to business and asked how many times did you have the conversation in the first place. I think it's a very practical tool which everyone should apply. I think that's one. I think second one was about Santosh saying at the end was not taking anything for granted and starting to question. I think that is a narrative which all HR guys should have in mind, and not just move on and go on with the flow and not question back. I think that courage in ourselves is the first thing which will help us get into those kind of conversations and also think in those directions. So thank you so much.
even if you don't question outside, let that question give you some sleepless nights. And I can tell you one of my challenge. I live in Coorg. So if you have ever traveled in Coorg or any area where coffee grows in India, coffee will be kept at a 4 feet high. Every year they'll cut the branch. So coffee is the size. And I kept asking every villager, why do you do that? Every year you cut, and they call kapat, so they break that. So their reasoning to me has been that so the new branches come, so that there is more coffee. And I've been trying to figure out, and my reasoning and logic is this makes easier for them to collect coffee. You can stand and collect. At that point of time, where we didn't have any other means to collect the coffee, keeping them dwarf was a great idea. I don't think it is a great idea now. So I am experimenting with some trees. I am not cropping. So sometimes this question doesn't need to be questioning an establishment. I can do my own experiment in smaller places. Because my logic says that if the coffee plant go broader and bigger, you'll have more coffee. Why am I making it into a town? But all farmers answered me that is to get more coffee. But nobody realized, possibly when they started, the ease of plucking coffee was a problem that they were trying to solve. So that's
Santosh, in fact, I personally feel, and I can tell you first-hand experience, performance is the single most unsolved problem on the planet today. And any founder who's worth its salt will never be against saying if they can truly see that this may lead to better performance. What lands up happening is it is HR's inability to show the linkage between this complex process and performance, which they say यार तुम process खत्म करो यार. But
yeah.
now been working where founders को मैंने बोला यार कंपनी का परफॉर्मेंस मेरे को स्लीपलेस नाइट्स दे रहा है. Now that's the love language they understand. They say, okay, how can we solve it? And then you go in and say, yaar, do you want to experiment some of these things?
I agree. In a way, very well said, because some of the challenges that you mentioned about the power dynamics with the manager and all, so that's also a cultural climate that you create. I don't think everything they do is right, but from a performance culture, I've noticed when I interacted with the McKinsey for 10 years, nobody had an issue that performance is given after every project. And they will collect from the manager will give, whoever was managing you for the project, they'll collect from the clients and a partner will give. And that's there is no specific time, but they'll keep giving. And people will come and ask, because that was another question. Should we create a culture of feedback seeking or a culture of feedback giving? Thank you so much. It was great evening. Well spent. Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Himanshu. Great start. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
All right.
Thank you, Karthik.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, Santosh.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great
Bye.
session.